Well, this isn't good because I don't have a camera. There we go. For a minute, I was like, now what am I going to do? Hey guys, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good whatever it is. Good Monday. Hello, Monday. I would not have been surprised had my camera not have popped on. So I'll give you a second, hop on here, say hello. Welcome to our Monday Soul Deliciousness. I am your host. Just kidding. So I realized today that I lean like this whenever I'm talking or doing sessions, and now my chair is squampus off to the side. So I need to lean this way so I can like balance it out, but that just seems wrong to me, right? That must be my other off leaning side. So hop on. I did not go live this morning, so let me tell you why. Okay, first of all, last night I went to go to bed, and the night before, I did one of those fantastic things where I decided, hello, Christina, I decided to put my retainer in. And I had not worn my retainer for probably too long. And so I did one of those force it on, feels like you're about to die and you need to go to bed, jacked up on ibuprofen because you didn't wear your retainer like the dentist told you to. So I had done that the night before. So last night I was like, I'm going to wear it again so I can, put my teeth back where they're supposed to be. And I was like, where in the ever living is my top retainer? So I had the bottom piece to it, and it was sitting in its little container on top of my bathroom vanity, whatever. And I was like, how do I have the bottom and not the top, right? So I feel sort of guilty, a little mom releasing some mom guilt. I feel a little guilty because of course, like, who am I going to blame, right? I'm blaming the 5-year-old. So I'm like, did you play with my retainer? And of course he's like, no. And he's claiming that he didn't. And he has this gigantic Rubbermaid full of Orbeez. And I'm like, oh my word, I bet my retainer is in this Orbeez somewhere. So I keep asking him because like a month ago, he took some money from my mom, and hello, Teresa, he was absolutely not going to tell anybody that he took it. And we found it, so we knew he did. So I was like, do I really actually believe you? And he's like, I didn't play with your retainer because I know I would get in trouble, so I didn't play with it. So I was like, all right, whatever. Like, I tried to bribe him. Dave told him that he could have McDonald's today if he would give his mom back her retainer, but he was like adamant that he didn't have it. So I start out my morning with missing my top retainer, and I'm like, I don't know where this thing is. Like, I looked everywhere, and so that's how it starts. And I'm trying to stay positive, right? I'm like, there's a reason for everything. And I'm trying to like motivate and coach myself. And so I'm getting ready for the day, and I come out here to do Sakatuum, and my hair is totally wet because I spent so much time trying to find my retainer this morning that I'm like, whatever, I'm just going to go with it. So I'm out here with my sopping wet hair, and I realized that the night before I decided to shut my computer off because I had it on for a long time, and I thought, it's going to start getting slow and wonky. So I turned it off and was like, crap, right? Because then I go to boot it back up and it's taking forever. I'm trying to get all this jazz opened up so I can stream live and do my Sakatuum, and nothing is working right. It's taking forever. So my Sakatuum is at 7:15 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And by now it's like, I don't know, 7:19. Like, whatever, I can still do it, right? So I'm waiting and I'm waiting. Finally, it pops up. My screen freezes. I can't get any of my codes to work. And then I knock my camera off of my little stand. So then as I go to fix it, I must have done something else because then I blew up my screens and I could not get them to come back online. So by now it's like, I don't know, 7:25. So I'm like, bag it, right? I love you guys, but I have to, mentally like get my stuff together. So I just like walk away. Sometimes I just have this effect on electronic devices. So I'm trying to be like, it's totally possible for me to just walk away And when I do, and I know it sounds crazy, but when I leave the room and I take my energy with me, sometimes the electronic devices magically pop back to life. So I went and finished getting ready. And then I was like, okay, I realized probably because of everything I was going through, I'm like, man, I need to call on one of my prescriptions. So I call on one of my prescriptions, and I have two, and they're basically parallel with each other as far as when they get taken, right? So they both get filled for 30 days. So don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that I should run out of them at the same time. But for some reason, I have a bottle that has way more in it than the other. So then I'm like, did they screw up? I don't think the pharmacists do that. I don't know, but like whatever. So I try to call to get my prescription refilled, and I get the automated thing that tells me that it's too early to fill my prescription. And I'm like, oh my word, seriously, right? I don't want to have to call and figure all that out. But I'm like, whatever. Still trying to breathe through this so I don't have a mental heart attack here at 7 a.m. So I get through all that and piece myself together, start out my day at work, and just, let it roll. So then a little while later, I have Tayson tell me, like, come here, or Dave comes and gets me and tells me to come and look at something. And so I go into the bathroom, and now this is where everything starts to kind of like unwind itself. So which is great. So when I first came back in, my computer had magically popped back on. The screens were completely working. Everything was just as it should be. So that was like woo win number one. Then Tayson and Dave told me to go into the bathroom. So I did. And I had washed my bras the night before. And I had set them on the bathroom vanity. I know you all know where this is going. I sat them on the bathroom vanity so that I could hang them up to dry. And in doing so, I apparently caught my top retainer on the strap of my bra. So my retainer was hanging from my bra strap from a towel rack. Yes. So there was the retainer. So that was, the computer comes back online. I find my $500 retainer, like, right, things are going well. I pick up the phone. I call the pharmacy. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I don't want to have, the haggle of trying to call my doctor, whatever. And they're like, oh, it won't let you refill them because they're already filled and they're ready for you. And I was like, oh, apparently somehow this went into like an automated refill thing. So sweet. Moral of the story is, right, try not to get your panties in a knot, because sometimes things start going better. And definitely here we are. So tonight we're going to talk about a couple of things. They're a little separate, but they're very much parallel, because kind of really everything can be related if you, start matching them together. But we're going to talk about shadows, and we're not talking about your shadow when you go outside and you see your shadow on the ground, but kind of we are. But it's the energy form of your shadow. And these are really important. They play a very big part in our flow of energy, our mental state, all kinds of stuff. And so the reason this one came up for me is because of something that Tayson started doing. And I was like, oh, there's a little part of me that sort of sank inside, because I realized that he's starting into that spot where he is developing judgment for himself. And it's kind of a sad thing. And I know that with my other kids, I was not aware of this like I am with him. So I didn't notice it happening, and I didn't, really understand the complexity of the agreements that people put into our heads. And I'm so much more aware of that now. But right now, he suddenly is really shy and modest. Like, he won't get undressed in front of you. So he has to get undressed somewhere else, which is kind of funny, because if he's going to get in the tub, he'll get in the tub in front of you, but he has to go somewhere else to get undressed to get into the tub. So it's kind of interesting to watch. But anyways, I realized that he's coming into that spot where he's starting to figure out who he is and who he isn't. And he's starting to pick up on things that are right and things that are wrong. And his peers are affecting him because he's in school now. And so basically, this is how our shadow begins to form. Before this, we're this innocent child. We're running around literally naked, right? You're doing crazy things. You're eating ice cream for breakfast and you just don't have a care in the world. You're out on the playground. Nobody's any different to you. Everybody is the same. There is no race. There is no religion. There is no anything. Like you're all on one playing field. So it's kind of a bittersweet sadness to watch my child get into this spot where now like he's figuring out who he is, but it's also going to make him start to have, thoughts or impressions of what other people are as well. So our shadow is the thing that gets created from these negative agreements. So if my mom tells me, that I'm stupid, the kids at school tell me that I'm fat or ugly, then this is where this starts to form. And I like to pack these things in the back of my backpack there because I don't want to address them. So if I've been, sexually molested, I've gone through physical trauma, I've been in a car accident, I've been physically beat, I had a family member die, whatever it is, right? That's where I like to suppress those things. So the reason that these things can cause problems is because the way that our subconscious reacts to situations or those things that we call triggers, right, is based on the components of our shadow. So a really great example. One of my good friends who was pregnant at the same time as me when I was pregnant with Kinley, her daughter, and I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure there's only like, I don't know, 2 months between our daughters, something really close to that, maybe a little more, but anyways, she obviously pregnant at the same time as me. So we had a great connection just because of that. So she sends me a message the other day and she says, like right at the top of it, hey, caution, trigger warning, right? And she starts talking to me about how she has someone that she knows that lost a child. And she's like asking for advice on, thank you, Lisa, on what she should do. Like, how can she help this person? And, that the fact that she's saying this could be a trigger warning, right? Because what's happening? I'm reading this and my subconscious mind is having a reaction based on the components of my shadow. If I haven't dealt with my daughter's passing correctly in a healthy way, then what happens when I see something like this, right? It brings me into a state of chaos. And then the problem is that I start projecting that onto other people. And so it's a reflection. My shadow is basically a reflection of my subconscious reaction to things. So for me, it's not a trigger. In fact, I told her, I said, well, hopefully it doesn't, freak you out. But honestly, I watch your Facebook page because I watch her daughter, because to me, that's how I know how old Kinley is. That's how I know in my head what my little girl would be doing, kind of where she would be as far as how she was talking, or when her daughter was walking, like knowing, okay, we'd be crawling, we'd be walking or close to, right? And so it warms my heart to watch her little girl. And it's kind of like my ability to know, like, oh, hey, this is how old my daughter would be. But that's the healthy part, right? So that doesn't trigger me. Are there moments that there are certain things? Yes. Like if I were to go to a hospital and see children in an ICU unit, hooked up to monitors, I guarantee you that I would have a really hard time with that one. But once again, it's a reflection, right? So we have to figure out what it is that we're actually projecting. That is the problem. So we love to say, I can handle everything except for when so-and-so does it. And I find a lot of times that when someone's reacting to someone else, it's actually a really interesting little phenomenon that's going on. So a couple of things. One, it's a reflection of something that that person hates about themselves, right? And you've probably heard that before. So if you're having a really hard time with, Lisa, I'm going to answer your question. Did Dave and I ever talk about adoption? I think momentarily, and I'm hopeful that Dave will be okay with me sharing this with you, but for him, it's kind of interesting that I just read this in a book too. I was reading a book about a soldier, and he was talking about how when he was in Vietnam, he had a bunch of his comrades get killed. So when he was working with a therapist, they were, she was talking about like helping him get past this. And he said, I can't get past it. That would be a dishonor to the people that passed away. Like if I let that go. And I think we kind of had that same issue a little bit. For us, I think that initially before, because I'm reflecting, like keep in mind, like I'm reflecting back on this from my spot of complete being healed to looking back at it when I wasn't at all. And I think initially when we talked about it, it was that feels really wrong as far as projection of guilt, right? That if we just toss her aside and adopt, then we felt like we were not, we were forgetting her basically. Now keep in mind that me being in my place that I am right now, I have a much different perspective of that. I have a much different outlook. But in the moment when we thought about that, that's where we were. And so then Dave and I were older. And so we really just decided that with the place that we were in our lives, that it was okay for us just to be, we're done. Tayson's the caboose, kiddo. And that's where we left it. So do I think if I had been younger and this happened, would I have addressed adoption more as an option? Absolutely. But it just at that time wasn't something that I think that either one of us could really mentally wrap our heads around. And like I said, age played a lot into it. It was a lot to go through. So I hope that answers your question. Or having her living through someone else. I'm not really sure what you mean. All right. So, triggers. Yes. Projecting on other people. Like I remember even doing that when my daughter passed away. I was projecting it a ton. I was like, every time I felt like somebody did something wrong to me, I was like, you have no idea what I'm going through. I remember projecting really bad on my neighbor, not my one neighbor that is totally shunned, but on another neighbor. He was pissed off about the goats coming through the fence and Dave wasn't home and I was really trying my best to fix it, but he just kept sending snarky messages and I lost it with him. And I called and left like a hellacious voicemail. Does it mean that he was wrong in how he was treating me? Or right in how he was treating me? No, but that's not the point. The point is my reaction to it. I would not have been reacting like that had I not have a shadow that was from my daughter passing that was causing me to project on other people. Now, here's another one. Narcissistic behaviors. So let's say that you are at work or you are at your kid's school or wherever you are that you're interacting with people and someone is there that is got a really narcissistic personality. So you may project and freak out at that person and not be able to tolerate them at all because this is a subconscious reaction because you're missing a boundary, okay? Or you're missing a barrier in your life. So this one's interesting because sometimes I see that people will allow certain people to treat them a certain way, but they won't tolerate it from others. So this is especially common with people who have narcissistic parents or narcissistic spouse, but then they project on to other people because they're dealing with that at hours and they don't have a boundary. So those are the two things with understanding your shadow and how it's making you react or trigger things. So think about, am I projecting on someone else because maybe I have some of my own insecurity issues that I need to work through. I have some of my own jealousy issues I need to work through. Or I have narcissistic people in my life that I allow to do things to me. And so then when I meet someone that has that same type of behavior, like I blow up at them because it's my subconscious projecting and trying in reality to give me a little bit of a warning, a little bit of a, hey, you should take care of this. And so that's where that trigger comes from. If you're like, oh, running into things that are making you feel really uncomfortable and you're really finger pointing and you're like, it's not me, it's not me. Remember that it potentially can be. That's a big word. It's not me. Take some self-reflection and be like, this is what I like to ask myself. When I'm having a freak out moment with someone else or they're really irritating me, I like to think and say, okay, what is it about this person that is causing me to react? Because I don't want to give them that power. I don't want that person to have that power to make me react a certain way. So what is it that they are doing that is triggering something for me? And in reality, you're basically saying, why is it bothering me? Okay. And then you got to dive deep because there's something in there, probably from your past with a past person, a past agreement, that what they are doing is bothering you because it's something that you haven't taken care of yet. Otherwise, when someone does something, you should not care. And it should be like, whatever, right? It's on them, not you. Guilty as charged. I mean, this is something I have to work on a lot, especially because some of the people that I super struggle with are really close by, as far as where they live, and so it's like, you know what? Why do I care? What is it about you that no, there isn't anything, right? Because I clear that out. Like, there's nothing that you've got going on that I'm jealous of. There's nothing that you have that no, right? So you just figure that out, let it go, resonate with yourself, and find why is it that, and for me, it was the integrity piece of it. I have a really hard time with people that lie and people that are not straightforward with things that they're doing and they're trying to hide behind things. And so for me, that was me having to be like, okay, what about this is triggering those emotions? And then I realized for me, it's that, I have to come to the realization that it's not any of my business. If you want to lie about what you're doing, if you want to have skeletons in the closet and hold high places in the community, that's on you. That's you that has to answer to a higher level of power, guide, whatever, your God, not me. So that's what allows me to let that go so I'm not triggered by those behaviors. So figure out what it is. Okay. The easiest way to do this is to make sure that you're being very, very observant of the environment that is around you. Okay. Do not allow yourself to become in places where people are damaging to you. And I talked about this last week when I brought up, I think it was on Monday, when I brought up the fact that there's a family party on this coming Saturday. And initially I was like, well, I need to go to that because I owe that to my grandmother. Do I really owe that to my grandmother? So initially, right, you're like, yeah, you do. Do I owe to my grandmother for me to go become mentally depleted by someone in my family who has been very, very hurtful to me and to my kids, actually? No, I don't owe that to my grandmother. I owe that to myself to not place myself in a situation like that. I owe that to my kids to not involve my kids in a place where I'm going to go to a family party and feel like we have to be excluded. There's literally like two groups in my family, right? The group that's excluded and the group that's included. And it's just really weird. It's no kidding. It's like being at a wedding where there's a really big divide between the groom side and the bride side, right? And everybody's on their own sections. And so I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. And realistically, if my grandma can't understand that, guess what? That's an issue with my grandma, not an issue with me. But that's really hard for us to say because we've got it drilled into our head, past agreement. I need to be respectful to my grandmother. That's not being respectful to my grandmother. Now, she takes that as being disrespectful. That's something that my grandmother has as a past agreement when in all reality, right? She needs to work on that herself. Okay. Anyway, there's so many people there. She probably won't even notice. Okay. So changing your environment. The other one that I wanted to tell you is be careful about letting others' opinions become your beliefs. That one is a really good way to put some limiting beliefs back into your shadow that are really, really dangerous to you. And those limiting beliefs can be anything. The worst people to get limiting beliefs from are your really close family members, your spouse, your kids. Teresa, right? Like, I know. I'm just at the point where I'm like, I don't know, like, right? And then, but I've also told myself, wait a minute. Really, nobody comes to visit me, which is fine. Dave actually has a song. I'm gonna have to find it and I'll post it. Dave comes in the other day and he starts playing the song and he's like, you need to listen to this song. He's like, honestly, listen to the words. I'm not the type of person that listens to words. I'm one of those people that listens to music for the beat. In fact, I had some music playing on Pandora before I went live on my top hits, top pop station or something. And as I was going live, I was like, whoa, I can't be playing this, because I actually started listening to what the words were since I was about to go live, because I have no idea what the words are. So that's why Dave's like, listen to the words. So I'm listening to the words. It's a new country song. I don't know who sings it, but it's something about, she doesn't know if she likes you. Something about when you come over, I don't know if I like you yet, so make sure that you park your truck so you can get out quick, or something like that. And it's hilarious. It's something about, I don't know if I like you yet, so don't get comfortable being here. And Dave's like, this song resonates. He's like, it's totally you. I don't know what you're talking about. But anyways, you know, I don't need to go to people's houses and I don't need people to come to mine. Don't come over, by the way, just because I said that. Okay. Feeding on others' fears. That's a really good one for your shadow that you want to make sure that you get away from. So this one, I had a really cool thing that I was reading or listening to today, and it was like, oh my word, that made such good sense to me. Let's see, what was it? Caroline Jones, you are watching. Caroline Jones, Come In is the song. So everyone go and find that. It's a country song, I believe, right, Dave? This was the new singer. Okay. So this other one, Feeding on Others' Fears, this was a little thing that someone was talking about on a thing I was watching. So the guy is like a doctor of psychology. It's kind of a methodology that I'm sort of looking into, but I'm not ready yet to commit to, or I'm not sure if I like it. Anyway, when people are going to college, statistics mean everything. Like, right, we better have some research and some statistics. And so he's talking about how his teacher says, as she's discussing things that people believe, she says, there's a direct correlation between how big your feet are and your level of intelligence. And mine is better, hide the wine. And so he's in the class and he's like, what? Right. So as she says that, he starts thinking about it. And he's like, his, you know, cognitive educated brain is like, what the heck? And she says, statistically, this is a statistic fact that you cannot argue. There's a direct correlation between how big your feet are and your level of intelligence. So most of you are probably sitting there like, that's crap, right? Because I mean, Dave's on here, so I have to be careful what I say. But most of the time, women have really small feet. So most guys are probably like, oh yeah, that's totally true. And most of us women are like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So as he starts to like rebuttal this, she says, now here it is. Okay. She said, be careful what your statistics, where your statistics come from, because she said that statistic is very true. She said, but you have to realize, what population are we talking about? So she said, there is a direct correlation between how big your feet are and your level of intelligence if you're using the human race. And so then it clicks with him, because they are including babies. Babies don't have a measurable level of intelligence or an IQ. It's not developed yet, so it really can't be measured. So if you use the entire human population, then yes, the statistics becomes true. There is a direct correlation between how big your feet are and your level of intelligence, because it can be measured. But if I say, okay, now let's look at an age group between 18 and 45, including all males and females, then this statistic no longer is valid. Oh, how many of you kind of just had a little moment, right? So be careful basing your opinions on other people's beliefs or on things that you don't actually truly understand. We also feeding on others' fears. That's a big one. I won't even turn the TV on. I avoid social media as far as actual things that are going on, like the plague. So someone says, well, how do you know, how are you going to know what's going on in the world? Why do I need to know what's going on in the world? I really don't. I'm also under the impression that my world is a lot different. Like that is not reality to me. My reality is based off of what I can make happen, not what is happening to everyone else. And I have a true belief that no matter what is going on, I still have full power over my own self and my own little universe here. So whatever is going on out there, let it happen. I guarantee you if something really big goes on that I need to know about, someone's going to tell me, unfortunately. Okay. Yes, Dave says, park your truck facing out because I wouldn't want to be you when I want you gone. I know that feeling. It's scary. Wait, is that part of the song? I don't think that last sentence, I know that feeling, it's scary, is actually part of the song. Okay. All right. So the other one, changing your environment and building on your shadow. This one's something that people don't really think about, but when we sit around and talk negatively about other people and we gossip, you're actually adding to your shadow bag. And the reason for that is when we judge other people, we actually are judging ourselves. So remember when I told you, no, that's part of my song? Oh dear. Um, when we judge other people, that comes back to that projection of our shadow. So when we judge others, we're basically just projecting what? Our own insecurities. So if I want to go around thinking to myself, you're dressed weird, you're ugly, you're fat, all I'm doing is passing judgment on myself because I'm doing comparative. And then honestly, if I'm saying that about someone else, then I probably think that about myself. So be really careful about who you're around and gossiping. It is ultimately, I would say, one of the worst ways to darken your soul is by gossiping, right? Best way to bring your soul up, feeling gratitude. People that are feeling gratitude, I don't really know if you can sit around and feel gratitude and gossip. I don't think so. I've never tried it, but let's not. So yeah, gossiping. Gossiping adds to your shadow. So we're going to recap those. Others' opinions, becoming your own beliefs, feeding on others' fears, gossiping. These are all creating limitations for you. All creating limiting beliefs. And that's not where you want to be. So be careful what you believe because statistics, right, with the feet, they can be true, but what are you really looking at? All right. Okay. So there we go. The other day I said, who's my what? What? Okay. So here's what I'm going to leave you with tonight. A couple of things. So think about what is in your own shadow, right? Do a little, when you first meet your shadow, it's a little scary, but then when you get to know your shadow, you can, talk to it like it's your friend. The best thing to do is to just become, really resonate with your shadow and understand. Don't get mad at yourself. Okay. So if I sit with my shadow and I'm like, oh, why is this really bothering me? And I'm like, oh, there's some guilt there from something that I've done before. And so my projection is watching someone else do it and it's making me feel guilty. It's okay. Sit with yourself and accept it and be like, okay, I'm a human being. Like, what do I need to do to get rid of this so that I can stop projecting that onto other people? So, got it. So, and then be really careful where your beliefs are coming from, right? Who are you watching on social media? I mean, don't stop watching me. Who are you watching on social media? What books are you reading? What are you engaging yourself in? What? Oh, what would Honest Sassy Mama say? Oh my gosh, I love it. I need a shirt. But I was working with a client and she had some negative energy attachments that was attached to the word murder. So I told her, I said, okay, have you been around someone that's been murdered? I mean, that's kind of a weird way to statement that, right? that I was like, this is a really strong word of murder. And she's like, oh, it's from all the shows that I watched when I was younger. So, you know, your beliefs, where are they coming from? What are you watching on TV? I used to watch with Dave Criminal Minds a lot, and I had to stop. When I started doing energy healing, it was messing with my mojo. I couldn't watch it anymore because it really, I would just say, closed my upper higher level ability to be able to receive impressions from watching stuff like that. So you just don't realize how much it affects you. All right, guys, I will show you what socks I wore today as well, since we missed out on that. I'm totally sporting Jack the Pumpkin King. I have been wearing these, so, you know, minus the dog hair. I'm wearing Jack the Pumpkin King. I totally have my Halloween Rugrat PJ pants on and full-blown Easter socks, which they're hard to see because of my camera. They're actually lime and yellow and pink. So there you go. I will be on tomorrow morning. I actually have a day of vacation. So then I'm going to put all the rest of my Easter stuff out that is scattered from Hell to Breakfast. Oh, yes. And then I'm going to hang out with Jason and do a little whatever it is that we end up doing. Fantastic, right? Okay, there you go. Okay, guys, love you. Thank you for joining as always. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your Monday. Don't forget to just do it. Just be who you want to be. Get rid of those past agreements, work on your shadow, and we will talk